Alrighty guys, today is a bit of a spicy day, everyone. Bit of a spicy one, okay? I'm trying something new. I came across the idea for this video when I found it kind of hard to find a lot of a lot of builds for survivors, but in one spot. I found I had to jump around a lot. I had to go through Reddit. I had to go through different websites. I had to go through Twitch streams and YouTube. And a lot of people do top 5s and top 2s and what's the best meta perks for this, you know, this patch, whatever. It's all good and dandy, but I found that it was kind of hard to find a semi-decent list that had a lot of variety in it as well. I know that since I've been playing this game for a little bit, it's all cool being able to get to rank 1 using like a really solid build. Something that can get you points as well in every category. It's all cool. But I found that the game kind of, and I don't know if you guys feel the same, but the game can sometimes get a bit, you know, repetitive in terms of the same old beat, just doing gens. Every now and again, getting someone off a hook and then just exiting or, you know, making the baby killer rage quit. So yeah, I think some of these builds that I put in here, because there are 18 of them, guys, some of them are a little bit funky and they promote some different gameplay. So feel free to try them out and see how, and as well, let me know in the comments below how they go for you guys. I find it really fun getting feedback from you guys, and as well, if I make the next one, if people like this content, feel free to drop your builds if you got any unique ones in there, and I can throw them in the next one. And if there's any big patches and there's big reworks to any big perks, I could do an updated list. So if you have any new people that are joining the game and you really want to show them sort of like what they can do with builds in this game and what kind of different gameplay styles they can get into if they aren't really, you know, keen on just doing gens and, you know, escaping, then feel free to show them this video, guys. It helped me out a lot. If you haven't subscribed as well, please scroll down and subscribe. It helps me out so much. I'm just starting out, so if you guys want to see good content like this and for me to be able to keep giving you guys content like this, it helps me out. It takes like 0.1 of a second to just scroll down and hit subscribe if you haven't, all right? Don't quote me on that. I have lied before in my life, just saying. Anyway, let's get into it. The first build I have for you guys today is the stealth build. I'll put it up there somewhere. The title, okay? Anyway, so the stealth build consists of Iron Will, Calm Spirit, Urban Evasion, and Quick and Quiet. The idea behind this build is basically to utilize stealth to prevent the killer from even finding you to begin with, all right? So you don't want to be really caught with this build. It's basically, primarily you're trying to go around undetected, stealthing, doing objectives, getting clean unhooks without the killer really getting close, without the killer really noticing you're around. So we're starting off with a Iron Will, reduce all pain and grunting you make by 100%. So this is really useful, guys. This is so useful, this perk. I highly recommend it, even if you have your own little build going on. This is always a recommended perk from me. It is useful in nearly every situation, and it counters even a lot of killers. For example, Spirit. Spirit really suffers from using this perk, because as we all know, a good Spirit is hard to beat. Even harder to beat when you don't have Iron Will, because she can hear you if she's injured you and she's going to the spirit world where she can't see you to begin with. So yeah, this will help you basically be around the killer even if you're injured. And a lot of the times I've used this perk, guys, the killers expect you to be making noise, which is kind of cool, because this kind of jukes them out. Unless you got a very alert high-level killer who notices the moment they hit you, you're not making any sound. A lot of killers kind of don't recognize when there's a lot of stuff going on. There's gens popping off. You're fast vaulting. There's a lot of sounds in the game. They kind of can sometimes miss the fact that you're not making sound when you're injured. So you can use it to your advantage later on. And a lot of these other perks will help synergize with this, for example. So the next one is Calm Spirit. Now, Calm Spirit stops basically crows from being alerted when you're walking past them. Again, trying to maximize that stealth potential, because a lot of high-level killers do sometimes look for crows at the start of a game, especially at the start of a game. If they hear a crow go off, it's like an instant indicator to them, yep, I know someone 100% is in this general direction. So this stops that from happening. This is also a pretty good counter to Infectious Fright, as well as Doctor. Anyone that could basically make you scream a lot, this counters that really well. So yeah, this is another highly recommended one from me. It just, again, reduces your noise. The next one is Urban Evasion. Urban Evasion basically makes you a crouching god. You will never have to walk around the map at all. You always want to be holding crouch, basically, with Urban Evasion. At max rank, it basically increases your movement speed by 100%. So this really allows you to juke really well. Some of the maps that have high grass, this is fantastic for, guys. Cold Wind Farm, for example, really, really good. You can crouch the entire game, sit really low on the ground. Any killer that's doing quick glances really misses you sometimes. This is really good with Blendettes, for example. Wearing any super dark clothing, guys, is really beneficial for this build as well. I highly recommend it. So yeah, this is a really good one. Crouching around rocks, around trees, and a killer, usually when they check around rocks, they don't expect people, you know, to not be that fast. Like usually if they're looking around rocks, they'll expect someone to sprint. If they don't see scratch marks, I've narrowly escaped even getting into chases before, just purely because they didn't expect someone to be moving that fast around a rock if they were to crouch. So this is a really, really good one, guys. Must have for this build. And the other one is Quick and Quiet. Quick and Quiet is fantastic as well. It really lets you vault really fast in a sticky situation, and get out of line of sight very, very, very fast. It also works with a locker, guys. Let's keep that in mind. In and out of lockers in the killer shack, for example. Really, really cool. Really, really interesting gameplay you can make with this one. It reduces all sound you make by 100% when vaulting over things, through windows, over pallets, and getting in and out of lockers. So this is really, really useful for this build. And yeah, it can really, if you need to really sprint, this can get you out of that really bad tight spot real fast. And the cooldown's really quick at max level, 20 seconds. A lot of sort of abilities go on cooldowns for 40 seconds plus in this game. So having this at 20 seconds, you get to use this a lot in a game, guys. It's very underestimated how many times you get to use this in a game. All right, guys, the next build in the list is the AFK / last man standing build. This one is a bit meme-ish in my opinion, but the purpose is to basically give you the most chance at being the last person in the game alive. This is kind of useful for pretty special situations if you're trying to do a daily or even a challenge to be the last one out, or to make sure that you even get out of the game alive. This one really encourages no big risky plays, guys. That's why I gave it the AFK name, because essentially you want to just be like the quiet kid in the back of the room, just doing your work and getting out, all right? This is a mixture of stealth as well as just some aura reading ability and yeah, sort of like preventing anything from ever happening with the use of Spine Chill, which is the first perk in this one. So Spine Chill basically lights up in the corner of your screen when the killer is looking directly in your direction and standing within a 36-meter range. And while Spine Chill is active, skill check trigger odds are increased by 10%, with the success zone reduced by 10%. While Spine Chill is active, your speed while repairing, sabotaging, healing, unhooking, vaulting, cleansing, opening gates, and unhooking is increased by 6%. So essentially this perk lets you know when the killer is basically on his way, because you know if he's looking directly at you and it lights up, you can kind of gauge whether or not, okay, it's still lit, I know he's now coming. If it's lit for more than 3 seconds, you know he's looking at you and you know he's on his way, and he's within 36 meters. Also, lets you kind of play a bit safer with your skill checks. The success zone does shrink a little bit, but the actual chances of it, like a skill check happening, can increase. So if you can hit your skill checks, this is kind of not bad. If you can hit great skill checks, you get extra points for hitting the great skill checks. You get 300 instead of like 50, I think. So if you're really good at hitting skill checks, this actually promotes sort of skill checks happening in the first place. So you can get some really decent points if you're within a killer's range while you're doing a gen. But also you essentially do everything else in the game faster by 6%. You vault faster, you cleanse faster, you open things faster, you heal faster. Yeah, you can kind of catch killers out a little bit with this one. Because, I mean, how many times have we vaulted over something and we've just always been nicked by the slightest bit? So imagine if you're 6% faster, you can kind of avoid that sometimes. Next one is Left Behind. Bit of a selfish perk. It falls under that sort of information perk, where it doesn't really do anything besides give you a little bit of information. So it's a little bit weak in my opinion, but in this build it kind of fits in making sure you're the last one out, and it gives you the most chance of getting out. So if you haven't done your gens, guys, this is really good, because essentially if you're within 32 meters of the hatch, it shows you where the hatch is. Again, just making it so you have the most chance of being able to get out. So next one is Urban Evasion again. Again, you just crouch really fast, really good at getting around the map and sneaking around. And the last one is Iron Will, because again, we're trying to stay quiet here. We don't want to, even if we're hurt, even if we get nicked at all, we don't want to be making any noise, and we want to try to be a stealth and use that urban invasion to get around, get away from the killer as much as possible, get back on gens, and just be sneaky, sneaky, sneaky. All right, guys. The next build on the list is the Generator build. this one is pretty self-explanatory. Aim of the game for this one is to go for gens. Go for as many as you can, do them fast, and do them as efficiently as possible. This is useful when you're hurt, this is useful when you're full health, this is useful when you're around friends. And also with the fourth perk that I've got on this one, it's actually got some defense against some pretty popular perks that killers use nowadays to stop gens, which is like Pop Goes the Weasel, for example. So the first one in the list is Prove Thyself. Basically, when you're on a generator with yourself or more than one person, you gain 15% bonus repair speed for every single survivor on that gen with you. So this can be very, very useful if you guys spawn together at the start of a game, you can really hammer out a gen really, really fast. And on top of that, this also offers you 100% bonus cooperative action points in blood points. So it's really, really good if you want to farm a little points and you know you're gonna be doing gens. Like if you have a daily to combine with this, or you have one of the challenges, for example, to do like 2 or 3 gens, this is really handy to run. And this build, I would highly recommend if you're trying to do gens for dailies, guys. The next one in this one is Resilience. So Resilience basically makes it so when you're hurt, you basically do everything in the game 9% better. How many times have we gone through games where we haven't really found anyone to heal? And so you just spend the whole game injured and you don't really know what to do because you don't want to go on a gen or you don't want to do anything too risky. This kind of promotes getting on gens even if you're hurt. And I see a lot of people fall into that trap of, I'm hurt, I need to run around. I can't do anything in this game. I'm just gonna run around, find someone, and then I'll heal and do gens. This kind of teaches you that being hurt isn't that big of a deal sometimes. A lot of killers who are just M1 killers, if you're a good looper, you can actually use this to your advantage. Like I've used this a couple of times. I've actually purposefully gotten hit before. For example, this one, really good against legions. You spend the entire game hurt, guys. There's no point healing. But if you have Resilience on and you're doing gens, just stay hurt. Do it 9% faster. Punish the killer for hurting you in the first place. Really, really good against Legion, that one. Next one is Stakeout. So Stakeout essentially is, it's a bit risky, so I'd only recommend this if you're a bit of a more experienced player. If you know how to loop, this is a really, really good one to use. But you want to basically get up to the killer within his terror radius. Now, again, some killers don't have terror radiuses, so this can be countered by some killers, but it's not too big of a deal in my opinion. This is just like a bonus perk that does a lot if it's active, but it won't kill the build or anything if it's not active. Again, Prove Thyself is probably the main one in this one. Resilience as well, and the fourth perk is pretty useful as well. But this one's kind of like if it works, it works. If it doesn't, don't stress too much. It's just useful if it does work though. So you basically want to be within the killer's terror radius for 15 seconds and you get a token. It stacks up to 4, the tokens. And then when you get on a generator next and you do a skill check, even if you hit not a great skill check, even if you just hit like the good skill checks, it takes a token off and it acts like it was a great skill check. But on top of that, you're getting a bonus 1% on top of that in terms of generator repair progress. So it's 1% better and it thinks it's a great one. So really, really, really useful if you're not good at hitting great skill checks and you still want to smash out gens. This is a really good one to run. But again, you have to get close to the killer. You have to be but it's when you're not in chase, which is good. Thank God for that. So you just have to stealth around them, guys. Be there for 15 seconds and then sip on out with your tokens and do some gens. This also doesn't put you in a bad place to get hit, for example, which helps you pop your Resilience perk. So if you want to sit near the killer, get a token, maybe 2 if you're lucky, and then he somehow spots you, don't stress too much, because if he hits you, then you got Resilience going as well now. So you've got the great skill checks coming off the tokens you use, plus the Resilience if you manage to get away from the killer though, in that situation you put yourself in. And then the fourth one, this is the defensive one, which is kind of cool in my opinion. A lot of killers, as we know, guys, from mid to like high tier, focus a lot on slowing the game down. As we know, at high level, survivors really blast through gens, and that's what killers fear the most. A killer wants a long game. It's obvious because they can get more hooks that way, they can get more chases, more hits, and they put more and more pressure until they whittle the team down. So Repressed Alliance is a good counter to some big perks like Pop Goes the Weasel, which is really popular on killers. For anyone who doesn't know Pop Goes the Weasel basically is a perk that a killer uses that once they hook someone, for the next like minute, I think, or something, if they walk up to a generator that's being done, they kick it in and it takes off 25% of the generator's progress instantly. So you can see how that's pretty big, because sometimes if you're 3-gened, so there's 3 gens really close together, you're trying to slam out the last gen, and he comes up with a pop goes the weasel, it's devastating sometimes, and it can really slow the game down, especially if they're a good killer who can get hooks very fast. They can kick constantly and really ruin the progress of your gens. So what Repress Alliance does is Repress Alliance activates after repairing a generator for a total of 60 seconds. So you've had to have done a generator for basically a minute before this perk even activates. But if you're running this generator build, you're going to be focusing on generators anyway. So this one usually mid to late game will pop off. And basically, when you're repairing a generator while the perk is active, press the ability button and it calls upon the entity to block the generator for 30 seconds. This can be absolutely huge sometimes. If you're slamming a gen out and you see someone, if you see a killer coming towards you after he's just hooked someone, kick it in. Like you basically kick it in yourself to block it, and it stops the killer from getting anywhere near it to do anything to it. And then you can run off, maybe get him to chase you. If you're on comms with your friends, you can tell them, hey guys, I just repressed Alliance the gen, because it basically, it actually lights up the generator white for everyone else. So they can see which generator has been repressed Allianced. So you can go into a chase with the killer, tell your friends to get on the generator and sit around it. And as soon as the 30 seconds is up, they can get back on it and start slamming it out. This is really handy, guys, against, like I said, really popular gen slowing builds that a lot of killers use. Anyone in red ranks would know what I mean. This is just so common to see a killer running pop, and this is like the direct counter to pop. So I highly recommend this in the generator build. All right, guys, the next build on the list is the Loot and Scoop build. This one is basically just, hey, if you like looting and you like looting some fancy shinies and baubles, this is the one for you guys. All these perks, in my opinion, work, maybe besides the last one, are a must-have. And this also includes Elodie's new perk, Appraisal, which I think will be a fantastic when she comes out for this build. And I think it'll be probably one of the must-haves and probably finish this build out. The last one I kind of had to think about. There are two ones for the very end that you can kind of throw in the meantime without Elodie's perk, but I think this build will be incredibly strong with Elodie's new perk, Appraisal. But anyway, the first one for this list is Plunderer's Instinct. This one is just, it's silly not to bring this one. It basically reveals the aura of chests around you within 32 meters, and it also considerably increases the chances of getting something pretty good out of a chest. So that one is always a really good one to have in this sort of loot build. Another one on top of that, which really adds on and stacks with the greater chance of getting something good, is Ace in the Hole. This is another must-have in my opinion, and basically whenever you retrieve an item from a chest, there is a 100% chance that a very rare or lower add-on will be attached to it, and a 50% chance that to find an add-on of uncommon rarity or lower. So, and you also, when you escape, you get to keep the add-ons. So this is this is another really good build, guys. Sorry, this build is really good for item farming and add-on farming. So I think a lot of people miss that with Ace in the Hole, and they think that's just cool for items, because obviously they've changed it and they made it so items now disappear when you get your item. When you finish with an item, sorry, and you escape with your item. This add-on basically negates that and makes it how it used to be. So this is a really fantastic perk. Really synergizes well with the fact that you're already getting something pretty, you got a better chance of getting a pretty decent item from just wearing Plunderers. So yeah, this is really cool. You get some really funky combinations of flashlights or keys or even maps that have some really cool attachments to them. Because a lot of people usually know that broken keys or maps tend not to be that great unless you put add-ons on them. So you can get kind of lucky with these and have some add-ons that really make the map pop off or the key pop off. The next one in this one is Pharmacy. So basically with Pharmacy, you unlock chests 80% faster, and the noise you make also is reduced by 8 minutes. So the fact that you're gonna be looting a lot and you don't want to really be interrupted, because let's face it, if you're running this build, you haven't really got a lot of defense for getting chased or getting any second chances, that kind of thing. So you really want to just be looting, playing it safe with this one, using your items to your advantage, and you don't want to be interrupted while looking for items. Because you are at your strongest in this build when you have an item in your hand. If you get caught out early without having an item, it's very hard to sort of do anything. You're just basically a stock survivor at that point. You don't have any perks or anything to help you out here. You got no exhaustion perks, you got nothing with this one. So be careful with this one at the very start of the game, guys. And that's what Pharmacy helps with. The fact that you're 8 meters, you got 8 meters less of getting caught, essentially. And also, the first time you ever open a chest with this perk on, it's guaranteed to be a medkit. So if you have that scrub friend who always gets hit at the start of a game, and you personally don't want a medkit, you want someone a bit spicier, go open your first chest, come to your friend, hey, I got a chest, I got a medkit, drop it to him, and then go look for the next chest, guys. The last one I had to kind of throw in here, didn't really know where else to put. Obviously, you guys can put whatever you want. Again, these builds are just my opinion, and I'm trying to focus on just the idea of the build and whatever perk works the best for that particular idea. But you guys can mix and match however you feel, yeah? So the last one is up the ante. Basically, you get 3% more luck for every survivor still alive. In my opinion, not the greatest. I think you're going to be getting really cool items from the first 2-3 perks anyway in this one, guys. This is the one that I would probably swap if you had the option to, and you can swap it with Built to Last, which is a Felix perk. You basically get the most out of your tools. So once you finish one of your items, if you have an amazing item that you got super lucky with, amazing add-ons and everything, and you don't really want to go looking for another one in the trial, it basically, when you finish the item, it replenishes it up to 50% again after 10 seconds. So you get an item and a half, essentially, is what it's saying. This one is another cool one. I'd probably swap it out with Up the Ante if you really wanted to, but until Elodie comes out, I think her appraisal perk is amazing and will finish this build off perfectly, in my opinion. And what that basically does is, it lets you open chests 80% faster, which is already insane because with Pharmacy, you already open it again 80% faster. So you can straight up nearly instant open chests as far as I know. I don't know too much if it's going to stack though. They might change it. It might be a bit too silly. They might, guys. But 80% is still insane. Either way, you get an 80% because it does take 10 seconds to open a chest if you guys didn't know that. So 2 seconds a chest. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. What appraisal does is you start with, besides the 80% increase chest speed, you get also 3 tokens at the start of the game, which is a really cool one for this build, with this perk. You don't have to do anything fancy to get the tokens. You just start with them, guys, which is really, really cool, really handy. And basically what the perk does is, and I'll put up on the screen what appraisal does, guys, so don't worry too much if you want to just sort of read it on your own, is that it gives you 3 tokens, and if a chest has already been opened and you're not happy with your first item, guys, it lets you use one of your 3 tokens to search the chest again. And yes, you can search the same chest 3 times. 4 if you technically include the first one. So you get 4 items, guys. 4 items out of 1 chest, which is absolutely insane. Just from 1 chest, plus the other chests you've got lying around the game, or even if you bring in more offerings to spawn more chests, you can see how pretty insane this can get. You can basically use any item you want till it's finished just to pick up a new one. Like, you're just going to be throwing flashlights around like there's no tomorrow. You can load up your whole team with items. A really cool build to run. And I think this will be a must-have perk in this build. I think you can maybe swap it with Pharmacy if it doesn't stack. Or definitely Up the Ante. And if you want to run Built to Last instead, then that's also a useful one to run in this build, guys. Alrighty, guys. The next build on the list is one of my personal favorites, and that is the Locker build. Oh, I goddamn love this build. It is so fun. It has great survivability, puts the killers in very sticky situations sometimes where they have to waste time, and it's really cool, especially at the end of the game. This particular build can ruin killers' days, guys. Also, it just turns on just from playing the game, because if you're doing what you're meant to be doing and destroying totems and doing that kind of stuff, you activate one of the perks in this one, which you should be doing anyway, guys. So very self-reliant as well. You can heal yourself with this perk. You don't really need other people, and a lot of juke potential, which is the reason why I really love this. Survivability and the juke potential out of this build is incredible. It really is. So basically what we do is we start off with Quick and Quiet. And again, guys, I don't have to keep explaining it, but Quick and Quiet basically just makes it so you can do any fast vaulting action, whether getting in lockers, over windows, through pallets, anything like that, without a single sound, once every 20 seconds. Again, 20-second cooldown, I can't stress enough, is amazing. It really is cool. There's been so many times that I've been in chases for more than 20 seconds and the killer just doesn't expect this to go off more than once, because they're not really focusing on it. Really good juke potential with that, especially with the locker, the yellow locker part of this build. This can be extremely handy and very safe to use. It basically just makes this build really safe. You can swap this out if you really want. In my opinion, I think it's really necessary. The inner strength is, again, breaking totems, and we all know how important it is to break totems nowadays, because a lot of killers run Noed, a lot of killers run Ruin, a lot of killers run a lot of other builds that have a lot of hexes in them. So naturally, you're going to be trying to activate this anyway, in my opinion. So it's just a safe kind of perk to use, and you can use it like 2 or 3 times a game, which is kind of handy. And it just makes you're more self-reliant. You don't have to depend on other people to heal you. So basically what inner strength does is once you've broken a totem successfully, so at the start of the game, I'll usually try and look for a totem real fast and break it, just so I've got a stack ready to go. So you want to break a totem, and the next time you're injured and you get in a locker, after 8 seconds, it'll heal you 1 full health state. And the reason why I'm specifically saying one full health state is because it doesn't heal you to full health, guys. It doesn't. It takes you up from 1 full health state. So if you're mending, it will just take you out of the mend. It won't actually heal you full. So just keep that in mind with this perk, guys. I've fallen victim to it a couple times where I've forgotten that I was mending and I've just hopped in a locker and waited, and it's just taken the mend off. And don't, if you can, try not to use it on that, because we all know you can just stand still and mend yourself. It's kind of a waste, in my opinion. So you always want to be using this when you're clean, half health, no mending, get in a locker, heal yourself. You can also save it. So if you got someone near you, let them heal you guys. 3 points, and on top of that, you can save it for that die situation where maybe you're the last person in the game left, maybe the second last person in the game left, someone else is hooked and you need to be able to heal yourself to go for the save. This is really, really handy, this perk. And again, you're gonna be breaking totems, so you're always gonna be trying to use this as much as possible. The next one is Head On, and this works fantastic with the first 2 perks. Again, getting into a locker, quick and quiet, perfect for that, especially in a sticky situation. And Head On just makes it a little bit easier to get off because the killer doesn't really expect you to be there, with the quick and quiet making it, you know, basically sound free. But Head On essentially is, after standing in a locker for 3 seconds, you can shift out of the locker, so you fast vault out of the locker, and you'll basically slam the doors open, and if the killer's within a certain range of that front door, you stun him. So it's basically just like you dropped a pallet on him, and it's the equivalent of that, and you can do some really cool saves here. If you're on comms with your friends, you can get them to crawl in front of a locker, killer goes to pick them up, as soon as they finish animating, you head on. It's basically like the equivalent of dropping him and you save your friend. Really, really cool. Works again, really. This perk is so amazing and one of my favorites because everything just synergizes off each other. It's really cool. Quick and quiet into a Head On is just, killer doesn't expect you to be there. It's really, really handy. Just keep in mind that this is an exhaustion perk. So if you do like running sprint bursts and other exhaustion perks, this does take up that slot, guys. But yeah, again, really, really handy. And I'll tell you why it's really handy, and it's kind of synergizes with it synergizes really well with inner strength and the last perk, which in my opinion is really handy, and that's Decisive Strike. We all, at this point, the majority of us know what Decisive Strike is. It's probably the best perk in the entire game for survivors, because even if you aren't using it, killers still treat you like you are 90% of the time. Any decent high level killer will always leave you on the ground if you've been unhooked. So even if you're not running this perk, you still can get away with just, you know, not running it because they think you might run it 90% of the time. But again, it's really handy, especially for the locker. And the reason for that is, sorry, first I'll go over what the perk does, sorry. So basically, once you've been unhooked, for the next minute, you are tunnel proof is the reason for this perk. So after you've been unhooked for the next 60 seconds, if the killer does down you and decide to pick you up within that 60-second time frame, you basically get a skill check. It's this little hard skill check. But basically, if you hit it, you stab him in the back, you hop off, and you get about 3 to 5 seconds. I know it says 5 seconds, guys, but you have to remember that once you get off his back, you animate, you do this other stuff. So I think someone's done the math for it, but it's like you get a 1.5 seconds of just getting off his back. So technically, when it says he's stunned for 5 seconds, he's only technically really stunned for like 3, in terms of like distance you can gain on him. You get about 3 to 4 seconds worth of sprint. So this is super, super handy for getting anti-tunneled. Just always great. You do get 2 chances to use this as well, so it's kind of handy if you don't get to use it early on. But yeah, the reason why I love it, and I think it synergizes perfectly with this build, is because if you're ever injured, which let's face it, if you've just gotten off a hook, you automatically are. So in this scenario, your friend comes and helps you off the hook, you're running away, your friend's trying to take a hit, but the killer won't have anything of it, and he's going straight for you. He's dead set, determined to tunnel you because you've just maybe tilted him through the roof. You dropped a few too many pallets on him, and you've made him go a bit insane. All right, it's all happened. We've all been there. So a killer's going to go straight for you. Now, maybe you're at Killer Shack, for example, basement. You loop him around a couple times. You can quick and quiet into a locker. He doesn't know you're there. He maybe goes, checks around a little bit longer, and he realizes, oh wait, scratch marks have just finished. He hasn't left here. I know he hasn't left here. He must be one of the lockers. He comes and checks a locker. Now, you got 2 options. You got 3 options here. Inner strength kicks in, because don't forget, inner strength, 8 seconds in a locker. If you do get lucky enough to stay in the locker for 8 seconds without him realizing, you heal up. You can then get out, and even if he hits you, you get that sprint burst from getting hit, and you can get away to continue the chase. So again, a life-saving situation. It's kind of like a win-win-win with this build, in my opinion. That's why I like it so much. It's very hard to lose with this build in that kind of situation where you've just been unhooked. All right, don't forget, because we've been unhooked, Decisive Strike is also active, guys. So if you head into a locker, and let's say, for example, your inner strength is a couple seconds from being off, he hasn't even, he realizes now, and you can kind of see him like beaming straight for the locker, and he's about to pick you up, and you know you're not going to get your inner strength off. You've got 2 options at this point. A, you can let him pick you up, because don't forget, a lot of killers leave you if you've been unhooked because of the Decisive Strike. But when a killer opens a locker, they have no option. They have to pick you up. When they open the locker, they automatically put them on their shoulder, and Decisive Strike procs off that. Okay, so you can either Decisive Strike off his back and run, or if you can time it well enough, wait for him to get closer, use head on. So you have 3 options to get out of this situation. You can heal, get out, maybe stop yourself from being heard because now you're healed. He doesn't know you even got in the locker. So you've just healed, you played it safe. Or if you get some juke going on, maybe you get the locker, you got 3 seconds for head on to activate, because don't forget head on does take 3 seconds to activate. You get the 3 seconds on, and then you basically slam the doors on him, you can head out, easy. You continue the chase. Or you basically let him, if it's, for example, like your last hook, I'd probably suggest using head on if it's only your first hook, but if you're on your last hook, there's no real point letting him pick you, letting Decisive Strike go off, because yeah, like at that point, you're pretty much dead. So Decisive Strike is another safety net for this one. So it's really cool. There are a couple of swaps you can do with this one. So I do have Red Herring for this one, and I'll put it up. Sorry, the red herring is actually down here, sorry. So red herring, after repairing a generator for at least 3 seconds, it will be highlighted to you with a yellow aura. The generator stays highlighted until it is fully repaired, or you repair a new generator or enter a locker. Entering a locker will trigger a loud noise indicator for the killer at the highlighted generator location. Red herring can only be triggered once every 40 seconds. So this is basically like another juking perk. I don't really like using red herring. Again, you guys know how to use perks, and whatever fits your playstyle, use it more often. But this is basically just like a, hey, look at me, I'm over here. Get them to come over to you. You can play really sort of interesting gameplay with this one. If you do manage to pull it off, of getting the kill to, maybe if he's camping a hook and there's 1 gen left, you can get him to come over to check the generator by juking him to thinking the generator is being worked on. Again, I probably prefer Decisive Strike over this, but you can swap maybe the last 2 out if you want to run something a bit more sort of Survive with Frenzy. I think this is more Survive with Frenzy, Red Herring. And the last one is actually an Elodie perk, which is the new Survivor. And I'll put it on again. I'll put it on the screen again, guys. But this one is Deception. And Deception is Elodie's new perk. And basically, you interact with the locker, and while holding the sprint button to trigger a loud noise notification for the killer at your location instead of entering the locker. You will not leave any scratch marks for 3 seconds. And it basically has a 40-second cooldown. So what Deception basically does is makes the killer think that you're in the locker when you're not. So it's kind of like Dance With Me. Essentially, you're pretending to get in the locker, and then for the next 3 seconds, you have no scratch marks. So you can have scratch marks leading all the way up to the locker in the killer shack, for example. Fake it with the perk active, and then you run off out of the shack, and he thinks that the scratch marks have ended all the way at the locker. He checks the locker, and you're not in there. This can be very, very tricky, and this is why I think it might be a very good perk for this build, because of the quick and quiet. If you've quick and quieted the killer long enough, they think that, and they can kind of gauge that, like, hey, he's got quick and quiet, he's made noise, maybe his quick and quiet's on cooldown. I know for a fact he's in there, because if he had quick and quiet, he would never have made that noise. So you can kind of juke him out into thinking that you've already used your quick and quiet, your safety net's gone. Again, yeah, but I'd maybe swap out for the last 2 perks, maybe even Inner Strength if you have a Survive with Friends situation going on and you have reliable heals. Inner Strength is probably the one that you can swap out in this build, in my opinion. All right, guys, so the next build in the list is the Unkillable Build. And the reason why I called it Unkillable is basically this build is built to give you as many chances as you can to not go down. And on top of that, even if you are down and the killer basically leaves you unattended for too long, you get a fair few second chances with this build. It's kind of nutty, and it really throws the killer off and can throw their momentum off. If you're going against a slugging killer, or if you're experiencing a lot of sluggers in your day, I would highly recommend this build. This build is insane for anti-slugging. But I've also got another build that kind of is a bit more heavily based on that. The Unkillable build consists of Dead Hard, and Dead Hard is one of my favorite perks in the game. It's actually one it's probably one of my most used perks, because it has a little bit of skill to it. It's fun to use, but basically Dead Hard is once you're injured, it then becomes activatable. So this is an activatable perk, which means you have to push a button to make it happen. But basically you get like a little small half a second window of a dash. This dash basically does push you forward at a faster rate than what you can normally run at. So it does let you get to some really cool situations where you can get to windows faster, or get through to a vault or a pallet faster than what the killer thinks, and this can really throw them off. So if you're getting chased and you know that the killer's within a swiping distance of you, and you can't make that pallet normally, you can vault to gain that speed to get to that pallet and make that extra loop happen. This is one of my most favorite perks because of that. It is an exhaustion perk though, so this does take up the exhaustion slot because it is so powerful. It is incredibly powerful, this perk, if you know how to use it, but just keep in mind that it is timing based, and once the killer knows you have this perk, a lot of them will try and stuff, like basically barrel stuff you, which is essentially just running up really close to you and just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting until they can basically just insta hit you instead of having to go for long lunges. So this is really handy for just getting that extra bit of chase going on. Makes the killer think he's got you when he actually doesn't. Really handy for that. The unbreakable, sorry. This is the second chance part that comes in pretty handy. We all know that once we get unhooked, and we get slugged, and there's a lot of slugging that happens in this game, especially if it's the last two people going on, and the killer wants a 4-man. This is basically prevents that from happening, and it can really throw the momentum off for a killer. It really, really can. This, I know, absolutely destroys some killers and their momentum, because if you're left near a hook, for example, and your friend's hooked, you've gone for the save, the killer slugged you, and then he sees someone else, he goes running off. You can use Unbreakable to get up, because what Unbreakable does is it lets you get up once a game on your own from the floor, which is insane. But it obviously does require you to get your heal, like your recovery bar, all the way up to 100%. So the killer does have to leave you for some time, guys. But the handy thing is this increases your recovery from dying speed by 35%, so you do get there faster. And like I said, if you get yourself in a really good position where you're next to a hook, where your friend's being hooked and the killer's off somewhere else trying to get that last guy down, you can get up from Unbreakable, unhook your friend, and now the killer basically lost 2 guaranteed kills. He's lost 2 guaranteed kills, and this has happened so many times. It infuriates killers when this happens. Just keep in mind though, when they do know you've used Unbreakable, like, they start to see red a little bit. It's happened to me a couple of times where I've been tunneled because of this. They just want to kill you after they see you use this a little bit, so just keep that in mind. But that's where the anti-tunnel comes in with this decisive strike. Again, I just said it before in the last one, guys. Anti-tunneling is the name of this perk, basically. Once you've been unhooked for 60 seconds, you cannot be hooked unless you miss a skill check. You basically gives you a get out of jail free card. If he tries to pick you up within that 60-second window, you can stab him in the back, you get the 5-second stun, and you can sprint off to do whatever you want. Really, really cool. This is where that other second chance comes in if you've used Unbreakable or before you've used Unbreakable. Really, really handy. And then the final, Adrenaline. And yes, Adrenaline is an exhaustion perk, but I think a lot of people also forget that Adrenaline ignores exhaustion. Okay? Remember that, guys. It basically, Adrenaline, and I don't know if they're going to nerf it. I feel like they'll eventually nerf it. It is a bit of an overloaded perk, in my opinion, because it is heavily used. And the reason why it is heavily used is because A, it heals you once, a full health state, and that includes off the floor. If you're on the floor, again, slugged, so imagine that you've used Unbreakable, so you've just gotten back up, you go down again, your friend finishes a generator, you get back up again, and this killer is at this point, blood's pouring out of his eyeballs because he's just that mad. He can't get you onto the floor long enough to be able to pick you up. So you basically get a sprint burst. So again, you heal plus sprint burst for 5 seconds, which is actually longer than regular sprint burst if I'm correct, which I think is 3 seconds. Sorry if I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure the Adrenaline sprint burst is longer than every other sprint burst in the game. So it's longer. Again, it also ignores exhaustion. So if you just dead hearted, which is the other perk in this build, guys, which does cause exhaustion, and Adrenaline activates, it happens again, and you go back, it refreshes your exhaustion, but the perk still goes off. So this is really handy. It's basically 2 exhaustion perks when you shouldn't be able to use exhaustion perks after you've used one. So really, really handy. Again, super, super useful if you survive with friends, and you can time really, really, really well with your friends. Maybe leave a generator on the map on 99, tell a friend that you're about to go down, use dead hard to prolong the chase, and once he finally gets up to you and he thinks, damn, I finally got this guy after like a minute-long chase, tell your friend to finish the gen, he hits you down, you get back up, you fly off in a sprint burst, and it's actually infuriating for killers to see this, but it's really handy. So that is the Unkillable build. Alright guys, the next build on the list is the Anti-Slugging Andy, as I like to call it. And this one basically there to punish the killer for wanting to slug a lot. It also gives you a couple second chances like the previous build, but it also offers a little bit of help to those other people who are getting slugged as well, which is, I think, is pretty cool. First off, it has Buckle Up, and Buckle Up basically lets you see killer after you've healed someone up from the floor for 6 seconds, which is kind of handy because you can kind of gauge whether or not you guys should start running once you've helped the person up, or if you can commit to the heal to get the person to full health. So this is kind of handy in that situation. So for 6 seconds, you and the survivor that you've gotten up off the floor can see the killer for 6 seconds. So you can kind of see in the distance. If he's still chasing, you can keep your heal going, get to full health, maybe get on a gen. You guys are both safe. Or if you see him flip around, panic mode ensue, run. Don't stay where you were. Don't stay where he's last seen you. Just get out of dodge. Really handy one for that. First half of the first part of this perk is kind of useless if you're playing with survivor friends. Only really useful in solo, but again, it's not the best perk as a lot of people don't really use this perk, but in this build it kind of fits, guys. And that is basically that within 48 meters, you can see the intensity of people's aura change depending on how much progression they have in their recovery state. So you'll see the color change, and you can kind of gauge whether or not this person is still, you know, freshly downed. I can stay on my generator, keep doing it, wait for him to get really close to being up, and then when I see him, you know, getting a lot, the color changing a lot, I can then go back up to him and get him up quickly, because I know that I don't have to be there for long to help him up. He's already done all the work for me. It makes you a little bit more optimal, and yeah, really useful for that scenario. But again, if you're playing survival with friends, it does fall a bit short, because this information is already built in. You can just say this stuff over the comms. Hey, I'm halfway done. Hey, I'm fully ready to get picked up. Come pick me up. So this is kind of a weak one in my opinion. You can swap this out with tenacity, which is another one that actually works with flip-flop, which is the third one in this one. But tenacity basically makes it so you can crawl 50% faster while on the floor, and you can recover at the same time. So you can see how that's kind of useful. Maybe you're trying to get away from a hook and recover at the same time, and punish the killer for, again, leave you on the floor, which is what this build's all about. Unbreakable, same as the last build, basically lets you get up off the floor once for free on your own without anyone helping you, and you do it 35% faster. Super, super, super handy, and probably the most important perk on this entire build for anti-slugging. Really punishes the killer for leaving on the floor. Flip-flop is the other one that works really well with tenacity in my opinion, and there's a reason why I'll explain in a second. But basically, flip-flop is, while you're in the dying state, 50% of the recovery progression that you go through, so that little bar that you're trying to fill up while you're on the floor, is converted into wiggle progress as well, which is super, super handy. And you can see why in a second why that works really, really well with tenacity. And you can probably swap buckle up for it if you're playing with Survivor Friends, for example, is because, and you can fill that bar up to 50%, by the way. So you can only go up to 50% with it, but when you're crawling away really fast with tenacity, and you're recovering at the same time, and you're trying to get away from a hook, like you're trying to crawl to the corner of the map, or you've just been downed under a hook, and you know that if you make it to a certain distance, you can probably get off his back before he gets you on a hook. You combine that with flip-flop, so you're converting 50% of the progression into wiggle progression as well. You're already 50% wiggled by the time he picks you up, plus you've crawled away while recovering from the hook. You can, a lot of the time, get off his shoulders before he gets you close to a hook. Really handy with that one, that two combination there. Then this is the other one that I think is super handy for this build, because again, guys, you are playing with 3 other people. Keep that in mind whenever you're making builds, all right? Try not to be too selfish. I mean, by all means, play selfish if you want, but you do end up getting more points when you realize in this game that you have other people to depend on, and you have to help them as well. And you get points for doing it, so it's always worth. That's what altruism's there for. It's a big slice of the pie in this game. So for the people, encourages that in my opinion, and it's really cool, and it stops other people from getting anti-slugged as well. From getting slugged, sorry. And what basically it does is it's only active during your health being full though, so keep that in mind. You have to be fully healthy for this one, guys. But basically, the next time you go up to someone on the floor that needs healing and you need to get them up off the floor, it will also get an activation button appear. And once you press that, it instantly heals them back up to half health. So they get up off the floor instantly, but it gives you the broken status for 90 seconds and it makes you the obsession. And with making you obsession, killers can sometimes tunnel you a little bit. Some of their abilities work off you being obsession, so they want to go for you. Keep that in mind. It does make you a bit of a target in some situations. You can instantly get people up. It's a really, really handy in a scenario where someone's just been downed. It's happened to me a fair few times where killers don't actually expect you to get for the person to get up that fast while they're going off chasing the next person. Because if you think about it, killers usually expect, you know, the person to be on the floor for like a minute and a half before someone comes and helps. If they've just downed someone and they see someone else and they go running for them, and then, you know, you instantly come around the corner and help the person up and you guys have fled, what's the chance that he's gonna be looking at the floor? Like he's gonna be looking at the corner of his screen and looking for that person who just got up. He's not gonna really register it because he's not gonna be looking for that information to begin with. He's gonna be like, I just downed this guy fresh. There's no way he's getting up. I'm gonna go for the next person. So the fact that after 30, 40 seconds have gone by and he looks down and he says, whoa, what's going on? The guy's already up. It can really throw him off and you're long gone by then. You guys are fully healed. That kind of situation is going on. So that's really cool. Super anti-slugging build, this one. Kind of cool in that sort of sense. All right, guys. So the next build on the list is the Bloopoint farming build. This is one of my favorites, actually. Especially, I recommend this build to nearly all my friends when they just get into the game because, hey guys, at this point, there are a lot of perks. There are a lot of survivors. It's hard for them to start getting into decent builds if they're slugging through point after point, trying to get games finished, get decent amount of points, which, let's face it, if you're a brand new player, you're not going to be getting a lot of points that much. That's just how the game works. You get points based on how well you do, and that blood points directly correlate to how many blood webs you can get through. So putting on a Bloopoint farming build, slamming out, you basically get 2, even sometimes 3 times the amount of blood points as you would in one game. So instead of farming out 3 games, you're basically doing 1 and getting the value of 3 out of it. And the thing with these builds are, they're not really too silly. And I've seen a lot of Bloopoint builds that basically just put on every single ability that gives you blood points, and I think a lot of them don't really work together sometimes, or a lot of them kind of just, they're handy, but at the same time it's like, you know, you could have a better combination and something that actually synergizes off each other, and it still makes you a useful player. There's no point putting blood point builds on with abilities that don't really work together, or you're just not gonna be able to get half of the abilities off because you're dying or you don't have any protection, you're not being able to help anyone kind of deal. So first off, this build has a lot of variation, keep in mind. It has a decent amount of variation because of the side with friends and solo benefit situation. And I've got some perks that you can swap in and out with this, and I'll show you them in a sec as well. But basically the first one is Prove Thyself, guys. Again, this is a fantastic perk. It promotes working together, which in itself gets you more points if you're working with more people, because every person on a generator with you increases the repair speed by 15%. So you do gens faster, and also you get 100% more blood points in the cooperative actions, which is super handy. 100%, guys, and that stacks with other perks that you'll see in a sec. So We're Gonna Live Forever is one of my most favorite perks. I pretty much run this on nearly all my builds at the moment, just because it works really well with playing altruistic and playing with friends, especially when you combine it with the next perk I'll show you in a sec. But basically, We're Gonna Live Forever is a perk that encourages altruism and getting your friends off hooks and other survivors in the game off hook. And it also increases your healing speed when people are on the floor by 100%. So you get people up off the floor fast, and on top of that, you get extra blood points, and it stacks for every person you get off the hook. So basically, the way this works is you want to get to 4 tokens as fast as you can. So you start off with 0, okay? But every person you unhook, you get 1 token, and 1 token represents 25% more blood points in every category, which I absolutely love. That's why I love this perk so much. Even if you don't get all the stacks, hey, 50% in every category is insane compared to just Prove Thyself, which is just the cooperative actions. Think about it that way. 100% in one category or 50% in 4 categories. You can see how this adds up pretty fast, and that's just with 2 stacks, which is very doable in a game. But if you're playing super altruistic, 100% in every single category is essentially doubling your blood points. And if you combine that with an offering, or you combine that with other things, you can see how you can get 3, sometimes even 4 times your blood points, which is essentially 4 games in one. And that only gets better with the better you play as well, because obviously the better you play, the more blood points you get. But basically, you gain a token for performing the following actions, and that's performing a safe hook. A safe hook basically means that you unhook the person and they don't get hit within a certain allotted time, or you take a hit for them as well, which is kind of cool. So if you're doing a risky unhook, this perk kind of encourages you, and also it teaches new players as well to try not to go for unhooks that they aren't safe with. If the killer's right next to you, don't unhook them. It's that simple. Don't do it. You will not be rewarded with this perk if you're playing a bit silly like that. And that's why I think the next perk kind of stops that from happening, which is really cool. There's multiple ways to get these tokens, and that's performing a safe unhook, taking a hit to protect the survivor, like I said. That also works for if they're in a chase and they've been hit. If you then trail that survivor being hurt and you make the survivor, you kind of grab aggro off the killer and try and get them to encourage going on you, that counts as also taking a hit, because you're then protecting someone else from getting hit. So that's another way to get a stack, and you can kind of see how this effect can sort of like stack on top of each other. So if you've just done a safe unhook, that person's running, you're body blocking them, you get a stack for getting the person off the hook safely so they haven't been hit after that certain time has passed. Plus you then take a hit for them, that's another stack. So you've instantly gotten 2 stack, guys. That's how easy it is to get stacks with this perk. It's not just about getting unhooks. You can also get them, this is a bit more harder to pull off, but it's still doable, especially if you survive with friends, or you're very alert and you're always looking for where the body is. If you're really close to the killer who's just down someone and he's not really alert that you're around, you can rescue the survivor by stunning a killer with a pallet. So if you stun a killer while while he's got someone on their shoulder and they fall off, that also counts as a token, guys. Really handy to know that, as well as a flashlight save. Really cool. And this is a great way to practice flashlight saving. It's timing based, remember that. You can watch a lot of videos on YouTube on what timing is, but basically within the last 1 second of that animation where they're just getting up on their shoulder and you charge up your flashlight, it's the best time. So by the time that narrows and he's ready to turn around, the blind's already happened, because you have to do it after they're finished picking up, guys. Remember that. That's another way to get it. But again, stacks up to 100%. So you can't go above 100%, which is basically 4 stacks. You want to get to 4 stacks every game as best you can. The next one is Borrow Time. And this is what makes the second perk, We're Gonna Live Forever, really safe to do. So before how I said don't unhook people if the killer's close by, this basically stops it. And this basically makes any time to unhook them a good time to unhook them. So Borrow Time is Bill's perk, and it basically lets you unhook the person if they're within the killer's terror radius. So if you hear the killer's terror radius going off while you're trying to unhook, it means that this perk will activate. Now keep in mind, some stealth killers like Ghostface, Myers, or even Freddy actually, because when you're asleep, you don't have the terror radius. It's different. They can directly counter borrow time, because if you're not in the terror radius, this perk never activates. So just keep that in mind, guys. Some killers do counter this perk. But basically for the 15 seconds, they have endurance, which is basically the next hit they were to take, instead of downing them, they get like the mend appear. So they get a sprint burst. You see their character glow white, and it means that their borrow time is activated. This is, again, really safe for getting the unhook. Yeah, it applies deep wound to them, and for the 20 seconds, they have to mend themselves. When the exit gates are opened and it's the end game collapse, this is an absolute incredible perk and can stop a killer from getting that final kill. It's happened many times to me as killer, and I've done it many times to other killers, that the gates are open, they've put them next to the hook, right next to the gate as well, and you really want to go save your friend. Borrow time is one of the best perks in the entire game, in my opinion, and can really destroy killer's momentum if you use this properly. Last one, I think, is probably the most interchangeable one, because it is a little bit situational, in my opinion. But No One Left Behind is another 100% blood point for healing and unhooking the survivor perk. So it's kind of similar to We're Gonna Live Forever, which is the second perk, but it's only during the exit gate being opened. So you can kind of see how this doesn't really take into effect at all until the end game collapse, and that's even if the killer at that point is getting hooks. This, I noticed, works pretty well if they have no ed, but again, if you're cleansing totems, guys, this perk won't really pop off at all. But if the killer's popping off at the end of the game and he's getting hooks left, right, and center, you can get some really good blood points with this. You also get 50% bonus action speed when healing and unhooking other survivors, and the auras of all other survivors are revealed to you. So this is kind of handy in that sense. You do a little bit faster, get more blood points for doing it, but again, it's only in that window where the gates are opened. So I think you can swap this build, this perk particularly, you can swap it out for other things like Bond if you're playing solo. So Bond is a Dwight perk, if I can just find it, guys, give me a second. But Bond is, here it is. Bond is unlocks potential in one's aura reading ability. Allies' auras are revealed to you when they are within 38 meters range. Now, this is a fantastic solo perk, guys. This is really, 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 really good. This also makes you super optimal, because at the end of the day, you can kind of gauge whether or not you're the one who needs to be doing saving, or you need to be the one on the gen. If you see multiple people going for the unhook, there's no point you going for the unhook as well, because you're just going to do nothing but slow the team down and make sure that, and no gens are going to get done if that happens. So if you can then sort of see, hey, one guy's over there doing a gen, the other guy's over there looking through a chest, one person's getting hooked, I need to be the guy to be doing this. And this also helps with the borrow time, so it encourages you to do altruistic things. And We're Gonna Live Forever, get those stacks going, guys. Get those stacks going really, really well. Bond also, I find, works really well to Prove Thyself, because think about it, 15% bonus gen speed per person you're working on the gen with, plus you get 100% bonus cooperative action. This, in my opinion, is probably a little bit better than the last one, We're Gonna Live Forever. So when I'm playing solo and I'm doing blood point farming, this is the build I usually do. This exact one here, Bond, Prove Thyself, We're Gonna Live Forever, and Borrow Time. Because A, you can see other people, you can meet up with other people, do a lot of cooperative stuff, get Prove Thyself going, know when to go for unhooks, when to do things properly, really optimal gameplay with this build. The other one you can kind of swap this out for is actually Empathy. So Empathy is a aura reading ability, so again, it's pretty weak, that's why I think it's optional. But dying or injured allies' auras are revealed to you within the 128 meter range, so you get super range with that. Empathy does not reveal auras of allies when they are in direct contact with the killer. So it kind of just a bit of info perk, not super handy in my opinion, but it is there if you want it for this particular build. So the next build on the list is the solo healing survivor build. So this one is if you never ever can get heals from anyone else and you really want to play a very selfish solo game of just doing everything you need to do and relying on yourself to get healed, this is the build for you. It does also help you with healing other people, so don't get me wrong, it is handy for that, but it is more sort of, because the one after this is more sort of group orientated, but this one is more sort of directed towards solo gameplay. First off, we start with Empathy. Again, reveal, this is why I think it's only good for solo, because you can get pretty much this same information from just doing survival with friends. Basically just tells you when people around you are injured and you get to see them, as well as when they're dying. So you can get up to them, get the heals down, and you're just being useful in that sort of sense, because you have so much information about who's injured, where they are, that type of thing. The next one is Self-Care, pretty self-explanatory. It basically lets you heal yourself, but just at half the speed. But it also increases the efficiency of healing items on your self-heal by 20%. Again, if you find that a lot of games you're not being able to get healed, or people are just being selfish, you're just queuing up a lot of spuds recently, and you just find yourself always injured, needing heals, this is a good build for that. And this perk really helps out with that, because you can just self-reliant at the end of the day. This combines well with Botany Knowledge, healing speed, and healing items efficiencies are increased by 33%. So basically your healing speed is 33% faster, as well as item efficiency is 33% faster. You kind of sort of negate the half speed effect of self-care here by bumping it up by another 33%, and it even makes the self-heal from items increase by a further 33% on top of the 20% from the self-care. So this is a good synergy with that, really useful. And again, this also helps you with healing other people. Remember that, guys, including yourself. So yeah, guys, the last perk in this build is autodidact, some people call it. Either one, say it how you want. But basically, this perk is super powerful in this particular build, and I think it's one of the ones that you should be running in this build. Basically, you do start at a bit of a disadvantage with this one, but hey, as long as you're hitting the skill checks and as long as you're getting them, getting heals down, and this is where empathy comes in hand as well, so you can really get a handle on where injured people are, you can get these stacks pretty fast. The way that this works is basically you start off with a negative 25% progress penalty for skill checks in the healing of survivors, but for every successful skill check while healing a survivor, you gain a token up to a maximum of 5. Each token grants you 15% bonus progress. Great skill checks cannot be performed while using autodidact, and also autodidact is not activated when using a medkit. Basically, you just naturally become faster at healing the more you do it. And if you're running this build, you will be doing a lot of healing, guys, so it's easy to get these stacks for this one. This is super handy. All right, guys, the next build on the list is the sort of more group-orientated altruistic version of the previous build, which was the healing build. This is more survive with friends, leaning towards that, a little bit less selfish than the first one, which is more solo-ish, but this one basically promotes you killing others and healing, especially off hook, being able to just get those sort of really fast heals down, get those safe unhooks going, and borrow time helps you with that as well in this particular build. So first off, we have botany knowledge, just makes healing 33% faster flat, and with items as well, the efficiency. This is super powerful, super powerful, and you'll see why in a sec when you combine it with the third perk on this one. Borrow time, again, if you're going to help other people, you're going to be getting them off hooks, they're going to be injured off hook, guys. You want them to stay up, you don't want them going down. Borrow time, super handy. It just makes it that little bit safer, gives them that 15-second window to, if they need to get hit, they can, and you can then body block for them after that, and you can get to them, let them mend, and then heal them after. The third one is Will Make It. Will Make It, I think, is a fantastic perk and works extremely well with borrowed time. If you're running borrowed time, automatically if you're in the mindset of wanting to help other people, and this just makes it that little bit easier, especially now that they made it so you can see when you're getting unhooked that the person has Will Make It. So don't forget that, guys. If you're running Will Make It, they get alerted in the bottom right of their screen next to their perk list that the person unhooking them has Will Make It. So it lets them know that, hey, this person has that 100% increased speed in healing, because that's what this does. Basically, once you unhook someone, you gain 100% speed in the healing category for 90 seconds, which is a long time. So even if you need to get away, use that borrowed time, for example, to sprint away, take the hit, get to somewhere safe if the killer doesn't want to chase that long because he knows borrowed time is going to be a pain in his ass. This will help you with that 90 seconds, get that nice time window in to be able to heal. The cool thing is as well, it's not like once you've healed someone, it disappears. You still have it for that entire 90 seconds. If you see someone else, you can heal them as well with that 90 seconds increase in speed. So it really encourages you to use those unhooks. To go for those unhooks, sorry. So super cool perk to run this build. And the fact that you have 100% plus botany knowledge, 33%, guys, you can see how insane this gets. Combine this with a medkit, and you are straight up just stitching people up left, right, center, no issue. Make the killer head spin how fast you heal them. Then fourth perk, again, information perk. You can swap this out. Maybe even with We're Gonna Live Forever, which is the unhooking perk from David, which is I think is really handy because you get those stacks, because automatically if you're going to be unhooking people and healing them, this is a super handy one, guys, to run with this one instead. But again, empathy, another aura reading perk, just lets you see injured people who are down, that kind of thing, just to promote that sort of healing and being able to get close to people. If they're sprinting around, you can kind of cut them off and be like, hey, look, I know you're here, kind of thing. The next build on the list is what I like to call the Recon Build. Operation, get as much information as you can. That's the whole point of this one. Super handy with some other friends, with the variant at the very end here. Also super handy if you're playing solo. You won't be able to convey this information that well. That's the only issue with this one. Basically, this is just a aura reading build. Get as much info as you can about the killer, about, where everyone is in the game as well. And it's just super handy. It also makes people kind of play a bit more optimally, I found, when I run this one. I don't run it too often, but when I do, it just, because people can see where they are with some of these abilities, and you can also see where they are, it kind of just lets you know, hey, I shouldn't be doing this if someone else is doing that. I should be doing something else. I could be doing something way better with my time. That's what this kind of build promotes. So the first off, we have open-handed. Open-handed basically increases every aura reading ability, which is why this is kind of like a good one to have on this build. It just increases it by 8 meters. So it enhances everything else essentially. This is basically just a little buff to everything else that you run in this build. Pretty straightforward ace perk there. Kindred, I think Kindred is extremely popular. It is really, really useful in solo play. Again, if you're playing Survive with Friends, this perk is kind of built into Survive with Friends, and you can kind of see why Survive with Friends is very, very strong in DBD. A lot of the perks that you have in this game that aren't really like used very often, you can just passively have them with Survive with Friends. If you have Discord, you have like, you're a survivor with 8 perks. That's just how it is. But anyway, Kindred basically unlocks your aura reading ability, and basically when you are hooked, all survivors' auras are revealed to each other. And also the killer, if he's in within 16 meters of you, is revealed to other people. This is super, super handy for any stupid basement plays that some bubbas are pulling off, because we all know the new bubba skin is out. So if you see some bubbas trying to do basement camps and things like that, this does let everyone else know, because they can see the killer. They see the red outline of the killer if they're around you, trying to maybe see if they can get a sneaky kill, if they're maybe just face camping. Again, this is information. This lets other people know, hey, this person's getting camped. I don't have borrowed time. I can't do anything here. I might go clear some totems. I might go get an item to see if I can help with an item, if I can flashlight, blind, and save, if I can do a generator, if I can open a gate. This just gives people information that they need instead of everyone trying to crowd around the hook and nothing getting done. Super handy for that. Also, while a survivor other than you is on the hook, all other survivors' auras are revealed to you. If the killer is within 16 meters range of the hook, the this killer's aura is also revealed to you. So it works if you're getting hooked as well as if other people are getting hooked. You can kind of get that information as well. So that's a good one to have. And also, don't forget, it's increased by 8 meters with this. Super, super handy, especially the killer 16 meters one. You can see the killer from super far away. Some maps are kind of small, so you can really get a handle on that, especially if it's a double layered map like the game and you hear a heartbeat and you don't know, is it safe to get this person? Is the killer right next to the person on the hook, or are they underground, or are they above? This, with Kindred being 20 something meters long, it gives you that information, like, hey, I can hear a heartbeat, but he's really far down. I can go for that save up top. Detective's Hunch is the next one. Another aura perk, sorry. When a generator is completed, so again, this also promotes generators being completed, which is kind of cool. So you can also be the one doing generators. The auras of generators, chests, and totems within 64 meters are revealed for you for 10 seconds. If you're holding a map that can track objectives, generators, chests, and totems revealed by Detective Hunch are added to the map. This one does work well with the map item as well, if you want to run that on this particular build. And by all means, guys, with all these builds, run items on them. They enhance the build a little bit as well. And a lot of them, you can kind of see how, like for example, the healing ones, you can see how the med kit kind of is enhanced when you run the builds with them. So the map works well with this build. It just lets you, once you do a gen, it shows you other gens, it shows you other totems, it shows you, especially in a game where hex totems exist and perks, killers are constantly using perks such as like ruin and things like that. This is super, super handy at finding those totems, because they can sometimes go amiss when you've finished a gen and you don't really go back to that area. I've noticed a lot of people do a gen, if they miss a totem there, they don't really go back there, and they expect to find gens in places that are dark and undone with the generators and stuff like that. The moment you finish a gen, you can quickly have a search around, because 64 meters is pretty far, guys, and especially with the open-handed, which adds on 8 meters to that, a 72 meters, guys, 72 meters where you can see things far away. And then we have Bond. Again, information overload here. You're just trying to see where everyone is, get a handle on things. Again, if you're playing Survive with Friends, this build probably isn't the one for you, because at the end of the day, you have all this information built in. Another sort of variation of this build is running Object of Obsession, guys. This perk is extremely rewarding. Actually is a little bit busted for some killers. It does kill a couple of killers in this game, because it just takes their ability completely out of question. A lot of stealth killers are countered with Object, and you can kind of see how maybe like a Myers, maybe like a Ghostface, who thrive off being able to sneak up on people. If you have Object, they lose that ability. And this is what I would probably swap out if I'm playing with a Survive with Friends situation, because one person running Object is basically wall hacks. What this perk lets you do is you can see the killer's aura within a certain distance, but the catch is he can also see you, but it's only if you're looking directly at him. So the way to counter this is, if you're doing a gen, for example, you can quickly search around, find the killer, flick your mouse down, and just look somewhere else, or your controller, sorry, if you're playing console. And also, guys, I apologize if any of these are slightly tweaked for console. I don't play console. I don't know too much about console, so they should be 99% very similar here. But yeah, basically you want to just flick at the killer, have a quick glance at where he is, maybe on Discord, comm teammates where he is, and just stare down at the floor, look at the generator. You can really bully killers with this perk, and it is kind of insane. I've had killers leave games because of this perk existing, and it's fair enough. I mean, if you're playing a stealth killer and there's one perk that lets you be seen at all times, you're nothing but an M1 killer at that point in time. So, but again, only use Object, guys, if you are an experienced player. This is uses it. Basically, one of the hardest perks in the game to pull off, but if you can, it's extremely rewarding. All right, guys, the next build on the list is the Volta build. This one is a personal favorite. I think it's very similar to the Locker build, which is also why I like it that much. But with this one, you sacrifice your survivability a little bit for more chase potential. So this one is if you like doing some cool jukes, if you like being chased a lot, this one is super handy and it puts you in some really cool situations that you can get yourself into with a lot of the synergies that this perk has. And that's why I love this one so much. I love builds that synergize super well together and stuff that you can get off a lot. It starts off with Lithe. So this is more of a vaulting one compared to the Locker version of this, but basically Lithe is sprint burst, but for when you vault over things, whether it be fast vaulting over a door, over a window or a pallet. You get 150% of your normal running speed for a maximum of 3 seconds, and it causes exhaustion. So this is the exhaustion perk for this build, guys. Keep that in mind. For 40 seconds, you cannot use this again, and you have to basically stop sprinting, because don't forget, exhaustion does not recover while you are sprinting. So in order to make it fair, that you can't use it multiple times in a chase. But yeah, really cool perk on its own, but you'll see why it works really well, and everything else kind of complements this Lithe perk in this build. Next one is Dance With Me. So while performing a fast vault or leaving a locker in a sprint, you leave no scratch marks for 3 seconds, and Dance With Me has a cooldown of 40 seconds. So you can kind of see already what's going on with this one. With Lithe, you're fast vaulting over windows and pallets, and you're leaving no scratch marks after you perform that fast vault. So if a kill loses sight of you for like a second or two and you fast vault, you're long gone. He still thinks you're looping the killer shack, for example. He sees scratch marks everywhere. At that point in time, a killer's looking at scratch marks if they lose sight of you. So if you manage to get that split second to get out of there and then you lose those scratch marks for 3 seconds, it can really mess the killer up because he's still trying to look for you. I've seen killers look through lockers, dead set, think that you're still in the shack or in a building somewhere or in a loop, and you're long gone, and they're still wasting time thinking that you're there. And then if they want to chase after you, they have to then realize where you're gone and then continue a chase, and you've already at that point got a couple of seconds head start. It's a chase all over again, and they have to either choose, hey, do I keep going for this, or do I see what else I can go for? Really cool synergy there. Gets even better though with Quick and Quiet. So Quick and Quiet, again, makes your next fast action basically completely silent. Getting into lockers, getting over vaults, getting over pallets, everything's silent. And you can see how those 3 perks, I think, are 100% necessary for this build. If you're lithing through a vault, lithing through a window, you then lose all your scratch marks, you've made no sound. He doesn't even know that you fast vaulted because every killer's used to fast vaults making sound. He's not going to realize that you're even there. He's going to keep checking everything and thinking that you're still here. You're, I don't know, maybe you're crouched somewhere or you're in a locker. Maybe you've, juked him somehow. This is a super fun build, and you can really mess with killers with this one when you have these 3 perks combined. Last one is probably the most optional perk in my opinion, but it's Resilience. So it's your motivated in a die situation. You grant 9% additional speed when repairing, sabotaging, and basically doing everything else in the game, whether it be vaulting, unlocking things, or that type of thing while you're injured. So again, if you've been nicked, killer's coming for you, you need to get out of dodge real quick. Fast vault, silent with the Quick and Quiet, plus you lose your scratch marks, plus you do it 9% faster if you're injured. You can really see how everything kind of adds up here. You're doing things faster, you're doing things quieter, and you're doing things with very minimal risk here. But by all means, you can swap Resilience out for what I think is Spine Chill. Spine Chill, again, everything's 6% faster, and it has like that bit of more stealth to it. I actually like Spine Chill a bit more because it gives you that bit of information as well. You can see it light up when the killer's looking at you and he's coming towards you. It can let you really get ready for that vault. You can start looking around and be like, hey, I'm in this jungle gym, I'm in this building, I know there's a vault there. If he comes from here, I know which way to run. If he comes from there, I know which way to run. There's a window there, there's a pallet there. You can kind of really plan out your route with this one. It gives you a bit of extra time just to get stuff ready. That's why I prefer this build over probably the Resilient one. Also, guys, with the Volta build, I forgot to mention, Windows of Opportunity is a pretty good one if you're just starting out. This perk lets you get used to some of the maps pretty early on, and it lets you sort of gauge an idea of where vaults are, where pallets are. This basically, what it does is it basically reveals the aura of pallets, breakable walls, and vaulting locations within 20 meters of you. It has a 20-second cooldown as well, so it's the same cooldown as your Quick and Quiet. But yeah, this really is a handy one. I used this for quite a while when I was learning maps. Super handy for that one. Super handy for that one. All right, guys, do you like going fast? Do you like going zoom? Do you like absolutely being the Blur, the Flash? This build is for you then. This is called the Sanic Build. Basically, this build is built around the entire idea of going fast, never letting go of shift. Not really, but get the idea. shifting is your friend here, and you want to be able to do it as much as possible. So we start off here with Sprint Burst, obvious candidate for this build. So basically you want to be crouching for the entire game until you see the killer, or it's really handy at juking the killer as well. The way that Sprint Burst works is the next time you hit shift, it automatically procs this perk, so get used to that, guys. You basically go into a sprint of 150% movement speed for 3 seconds, and it causes exhaustion. So this is the exhaustion perk for your build, so don't forget, try and keep it off cooldown as much as you can, and you'll see why one of the perks on this list also help reduce that cooldown a little bit. Again, you want to be trying to use this perk as much as possible. You do keep in mind you have to crouch everywhere, walk everywhere with this one. That's why I personally don't like using Sprint Burst too much. I think it's a bit annoying when you're trying to get to an objective fast, when you know someone else is getting chased and you have to walk there like a spud. But again, super powerful perk and probably the main core of this build. Next one is Adrenaline. Super powerful. Again, you get that Sprint Burst of 150% for 5 seconds instead of 3 though. Also overrides any other exhaustions you have and it resets it. So if you've just used Sprint Burst and you get an Adrenaline going, that's a Sprint Burst into another Sprint Burst for another 5, which is 2 seconds longer. So you get about, 7-8 seconds of complete sprinting, which is insane. That's enough to make any killer just want to turn around and head home. Basically, it also does heal you up a full health state. So it is kind of handy because again, it does work if you've even been hooked. If you're on the floor, you get up. If you've been hooked and you've Adrenaline's procced, next time you get unhooked, Adrenaline procs and you go up to full health. It is disgusting how powerful this perk is sometimes. Really good on this build. Again, trying to go fast, and that's going to help you get there. Poised. After a generator is completed, you leave no scratch marks for 10 seconds. This is super handy if you're trying to get between objectives. Again, if you know you're not going to get chased for a while because the killer's way too committed to someone else and your friend's a good looper, for example, or someone else is looping him really well, or it's a super long map and you know that you can get to the next gen or get to the next objective before the killer even gets to you, and your 40-second exhaustion is going to be back up by that time. This is super handy. You can sprint to the next objective, leave no scratches behind. He's going to come check out the gen that you're just on. Super cool. This is how that synergizes with Sprint Burst in terms of keeping you a bit stealthed. You can gain a lot of ground, the 150% 3-second Sprint Burst plus the 10 seconds of no scratch marks. Really handy for that. Last perk, this is Vigil. Not highly used as far as I'm aware, but it does work in this build a little bit, and you'll see why. You and your allies within 8 meters range recover from exhaustion, hemorrhage, mangled, hindered, and blindness status effects 20% faster. Once out of range, this effect persists for 15 seconds. So you can just run into your friends for half a second, they get the effect, and then you can run off. So you're basically leaving a buff with them for 15 seconds to reduce everything by 20%. So you can kind of see how this synergizes really well with your Sprint Burst. All right, guys, this next build is actually quite an interesting one. This is what I meant about having some unique builds. It's not always about having cookie cutter builds. If you want to play a bit different, if you want to play a bit on the edge, this one's for you. This is called the My Hero build. And the premise behind this one is you're basically trying to hover around the killer. I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive. You want to be away from the killer. I know a lot of you do, but this one is for the experienced player. Super fun build, really handy when everything just starts clicking. And the reason for that is because a lot of them require to be around the killer, or a lot of these perks actually mess with the killer a little bit, which is why I like this one. The whole point of this one is to sort of, if you want to be within a hair's length of the killer, if your friend's getting chased and he's not that comfortable getting chased and you want to be there to back him up with a flashlight even, this is super handy for the flashlight saves because you can get close, you can throw him off, you can do a lot of stuff with this build. Starts off with Diversion. Diversion is an activatable perk. Standing within the killer terror radius while not in a chase for 45 seconds activates Diversion. This is what I mean. And this also synergizes with your next perk because you want to be within that killer for a certain amount of time. Both these perks can be popping off. You get the stack, and this is what you want. So once Diversion is active, press the ability button while crouched and motionless to throw a pebble. So you have to be standing still and crouching for this ability to work. You throw a pebble in the direction that you're facing, and it creates a distraction for the killer at a distance of 20 meters away from you in the direction you're facing. It leaves scratch marks behind, and it makes a loud noise notification. And also the perk timer resets once the ability has been activated. So you do have to go back for the 40 seconds and build up the perk again, and then be able to use it again. You can juke killers out here. If he's running towards a friend that you know is not really comfortable getting found, you can use this perk because you've been around him for so long, ping it at a door, ping it at a vault, ping it at another gen, for example, that isn't being worked on. It's so handy for that. It'll instantly, and a lot of killers, if they have nothing to do when they're panicking, they will always go. They're not going to risk going on a hunch. They're going to go for stuff they know and they can see on their screen. Really handy in that sense of drawing attention away. Next one, which also synergizes with your first one because you're always going to be within the killer's range with this one, is Stakeout. Seen this one before. Basically, you want to just be around the killer for 15 seconds. And while you're standing within his terror radius, you gain a token of up to maximum of 4. When a stakeout token has been used, good skill checks pretend like they're great skill checks. And you also do things 1% better with the regular skill check. Super handy because you're going to be around the killer for so long. Keep in mind, guys, you still have to be doing gens. And I think this is what this perk sort of, in my opinion, helps you do. It just lets you get your diversion stack going. And then you can go, all right, I've got a couple stacks of diversion. Because I've been there for so long as well, I've also got my stakeout stacks. I should go do a generator. I can distract him here, go do that generator over there, get your cool little tokens used. And then if you want to get back into range to get those stacks back up, you can. Don't forget, guys, with these builds, you still want to be playing like a regular survivor and doing everything else. Altruism, objectives. This, I think, sort of helps that and makes this build a bit more viable instead of just tunnel visioning on being bold and being super altruistic. The other one is calm spirit because if you're going to be this close to the killer, you don't want to be yelling. You don't want to be infectious frighted. You don't want to be screaming from Doc and other things like that. You want to be as quiet as possible in the shadows with the killer here. And then obviously the last one is going to help with that as well, and that's Iron Will. If you're injured, you don't make any sound. Second 2 perks, there to help you stealth. First 2 perks to benefit off that stealth. In getting this build running. Next build is coming towards the end, by the way, but the next build is the Protector, and this is the version 1 of the Protector. There's 2 versions in this particular video. So the first one is sort of more team-based Protector. So you want to be going for unhooks, a bit more altruism in this one. All right, guys. So for the Protector version 1 build, we start off with Borrowed Time. Okay, so Borrowed Time, again, we've used it a fair few times in this build, in the builds here, because I think it's such a powerful perk to use. It's so powerful. Again, going for the unhooks, you want to make it as safe as possible for you, and as well as the person next to you. And it really gets you in that, out of those sticky situations, the end game collapse. You want to be able to go for the save, but like, you know that as soon as you get that person off the hook, if you don't have Borrowed Time, they're just going to get slugged and killed. So you want to make it as safe as possible for the other person. Borrowed Time's handy, gives them that little 15-second window to get hit. They get hit, they can sprint to the exit. Botany Knowledge, again, emphasizing that sort of altruism thing where you want to be healing other people, healing them a bit faster and more efficiently as well, especially if you're using items. 33% faster, can't say no to that. Next one is Leader. So this one is basically, essentially buff everyone around you with a little bit of a speed buff into doing everything else in the game. So increase other survivors' healing, sabotage, unhooking, cleansing, opening, exit gates, and chests unlocking speed by 25% when they're within 8 meters of you. Keep in mind, 8 meters isn't too large, guys, but if you're playing Survive with Friends, for example, it's not that hard to find people. Or if you're in a gen even, this is also handy. It's like Prove Thyself, but a little bit less effective in my opinion. But in this particular build, it does work. Prove Thyself really only works with gens. This is more of like a sort of AoE buff around you, where you're just walking around doing other things. Yeah, and also persist for 15 seconds after you leave. So you can kind of walk up to people, give them the buff, then head out. And then the last one is For the People. And again, super handy. Throws a lot of killers off when you're able to get people up off the floor really fast without them realizing. And again, if you're experienced, because if you're playing the Protector build like this, I'm guessing you're an experienced player because you're more of a guardian than the person getting chased. You're trying to help everyone else in the game, which is what this particular build is, the version 1 at least. So yeah, you can get people up off the floor really fast, instantly pretty much, but you do become broken for 90 seconds, so keep that in mind, and you do become the obsession, which can sometimes make the killer want you even more. All right, guys, the next build on the list is Protector version 2. Now, this one is a bit different because it sort of specializes a bit more on being like a physical presence around the killer. Taking hits for people is the aim of this one. So we start off with Metal Lament. Not a really great perk anymore after the big nerf when it's first released. But still, in this perk, it has a little bit of a use. And that's basically after you earn 3 protection hit scoring events, which basically means that every time someone else was meant to get hit and you get hit instead, whether it be body blocking, that kind of thing, you get a token. So after you do that 3 times, which I know is a fair amount of times, but again, once this build kind of happens, it happens pretty well. But it's just getting to that point in game is kind of hard. So this is probably a very hard build to pull off. So just make sure you're experienced if you're going to use this one, guys. If you're beginning into the game, don't worry about this one. This isn't for you, this build at all. Once activated, the next occasion that would put you into the dying state instead doesn't. You get injured. It's almost like Borrowed Time, but you've had to have been hit 3 times previously, which means that you would have had to been chased 3 times, escape 3 times, heal 3 times. You can see how this is kind of hard to pull off, but if it does happen, it throws a killer off because they think they're about to down you and you keep going. It's kind of cool. There is a little bit of a catch to it though, and that's the next time you heal back to full health, your aura will be revealed to the killer when you are further than 16 meters from the killer. So this is what I mean about this being more of like a challenging hard mode kind of build, because you do sort of reveal yourself if you're further than 16 meters. If someone's running nurses and you're trying to heal within that 16, you put yourself at risk. You're outside, you get shown to the killer. So you can kind of see how this can put you in a bit of a precarious situation if you aren't careful with it. The perk will deactivate if you ever go down. With this in mind, I've also implemented some other perks that help sort of aid you when you're trying to get stacks with this, and you'll see in a second. Dead Hard, again, it's the exhaustion perk for this build, and because you're going to be getting hit a lot, you're going to be injured a lot. And I figured with Dead Hard, being injured this is probably the best perk to have. It's going to give you that little bit of extra burst to get to the next vault or get to the next pallet, get to the next safe spot, get you into that second, third, maybe even fourth loop when the killer was about to get you, swings too early kind of deal. This will basically give you that little dash to avoid that damage if he ever does, tries getting you down. And again, if you combine that Dead Hard, then he thinks that your Dead Hard's finished and he goes for that hit and then Metal Man procs because you've already got the 3 stacks. It can really throw killers off at that point because he's thinking Dead Hard's down, easy down here. And they just try and play it a bit safe, and they go for the safe hit, and they hit you, maybe stop moving, thinking that you're gonna go down, and yeah, you've basically just sent him for another loop at that point. The next one is Breakout, and Breakout is a pretty good. This is what I mean about the whole protector thingo, because this is where you're helping other people in the build, because you're gonna be around the killer and you're kind of experienced, and you're gonna be taking those hits for other people. So if people, for example, are wiggling, and you're trying to be a presence, maybe even get around if you have a toolkit and try and sabotage a hook, try to mess with the killer and stop him from getting to the hook with the killer with the survivor on his back, and you're trying to get that survivor, buy that survivor some time. This is a really good perk for that, because if you're within 6 meters of a carried survivor, you gain haste, moving at 7% increased movement speed, and the carried survivor also wiggles 20% faster. So you're helping them out. It's harder for the killer to hit you because you're moving 7% faster as well, so you can kind of try and juke out some of these auto attacks. And that's a good one to have. And then We're Gonna Live Forever. This one I think you can kind of interchange with whatever other perk you want in the game, guys. I just went with We're Gonna Live Forever because I figured getting people up off the floor is going to be pretty good for you. It's also the fact that you're taking hits for other people. It's going to get you stacks. You can kind of see where I'm going with this. If you're going to be taking hits for other people and saving people quite frequently, you might as well get some extra blood points doing it with the tokens and getting those stacks saved up. So I think this is a pretty good build if you're doing this, but I personally don't really enjoy using this build. I've used it once or twice. It's extremely hard to pull off. If you're a very, very, very able survivor and you really want to push your gameplay and try something really new, or you're trying to basically teach a friend, for example, this is a great build for that, because you can just basically be that physical presence to the killer, try and bait him into following you when you get revealed with the metal heal, taking hits for other people, constantly saving, the breakout as well, making other people struggle faster. You can be a real nuisance, especially if you combine this build with items. I think this build really heavily relies on items a little bit as well. So this is a good one for that. Alrighty guys, this next build is the Lone Wolf build. If you are someone who does not want to be reliant on anyone else in your game, and you just want to go it alone, do everything yourself, be self-reliant, and just you are sick and tired of having people on your team who won't do anything for you, this is the build for you. So basically, we're going to be running Urban Evasion. Again, you can kind of swap this out for whatever you want. Because you're going solo, you want to kind of be stealth, in my opinion. So this kind of helps you pull that off a little bit, being able to move 100% faster while you're crouched. Yeah, just lets you get around the map kind of a semi-decent pace. Keep to yourself, keep crouched, don't let the killer really get a side of you. Next one is Iron Will. So you're basically just trying to keep yourself hidden as well with this one. Whenever you're hurt, do 100% less sort of sound, sorry. And you're also can do some pretty cool jukes with this one, because again, the killers expect you to be hurt, and they expect you to make noise when you're hurt, which is also a good one for Iron Will. Next one is Inner Strength. The Inner Strength, in my opinion, is interchangeable with the Self-Care, the self-healing perk. But this, again, at a high level, I think you should be doing totems, things like that, and this kind of encourages you to use totems and break them. So I think Inner Strength is a good one for that, where you break a totem, and then next time you get in locker, 8 seconds later, you self-heal. And then lastly, we have Left Behind, or Reading ability. If you're the last survivor survivor in the trial, you can see the hatch. Again, if you're sick and tired, you don't know, your team's never really doing much for you, gens aren't getting done, stealth around, do the gens yourself, break a totem, heal for yourself, and then you make sure at least you're getting out and you're getting those points for escape. That's the whole premise of this build. It is a bit niche. I think there's obviously a lot you can do with this build, guys. Feel free to swap it out. I just thought if you're going to play Lone Wolf, you're going to want to be survive, you're not going to really want to be engaging with other players, so getting a lot of altruistic perks, things like that aren't going to be for you. You want to keep to yourself, stay stealth and heal, and make sure you get out, which is what the left behind one is for. So the next build, guys, is the anti-hook build, and this one, again, pretty self-explanatory with the title. You basically are completely against the idea of being hooked, and if you are going to get hooked, at least you're going to punish the killer for hooking you, and you're going to be able to do that with the deliverance. Deliverance is going to be the key part of this build, guys. So deliverance, for anyone who doesn't know, lets you get off the hook on your own, but there is a catch though. There is a very big catch to this build. You cannot be the first one to get hooked, guys. If you are the first one to get chased and hooked, it kills this perk. You will never be able to use it for the rest of the game. Make sure at the start of every game, if you're running this particular anti-hook build, you are not the first person to go down, guys. Because you want to, the only way to activate this perk is if you unhook someone else first. That gives you the stack. So you have a 100% chance of unhooking yourself during the escape attempt. You have to have done a safe unhook on a survivor to have this perk active, guys. So again, if you're the first person to get hooked, it basically breaks this perk for you, and it's just useless for the rest of the game, because the second time you get hooked, you, as we all know, you go straight into a struggle, and you cannot attempt escapes when you're struggling. Then, on your second hook, we have Decisive Strike. If you manage to get the unhook, oh, sorry, I also forgot to mention you get broken status for a minute with this one. So it means after you unhook yourself, guys, you cannot heal yourself for 60 seconds. So keep that in mind. Go to a gen, go find an item, go meet up with some friends, try and have someone take the next hit for you if you can, things like that, to prevent yourself from going down. But Decisive Strike is the next one, so in case you are broken and you do manage to get a bit tunneled, he does find you again and you do go down from the killer, guys. Don't worry too much. You have Decisive Strike. As long as you don't whiff it, you can get off his back. If he does decide to pick you up within that 60-second time frame, you can get off his back, and yeah, you got that bit of extra sprint to get away, and that little stun that sort of gives you that boost to distance to maybe get to the next pallet, maybe get you to Killer Shack, even get you out the door if the gates are open in that situation. Third perk is Off the Record, the Serena perk. So once you are unhooked or escape from the hook, Off the Record is active for 80 seconds, sorry. While Off the Record is active, your aura will not be shown to the killer, and grunts of pain caused by injuries are reduced by 100%. So it's kind of like an 80-second built-in Iron Will, but only when you're getting unhooked and off hook. This can kind of throw killers off, guys, and I think this is why you can, I mean, if you, by all means, you can swap this out with Iron Will if you want, which is just a permanent version of this, but at the end of the day, you can kind of do some interesting plays here with the whole unhook thing, and that's what I mean, like with these builds, they're kind of interesting. You're just building into one sort of specific thing where you're playing off the hooks, the whole hook scenario. You're going to get hooked, inevitably it's going to happen in a lot of these games. Very rarely do you get to go a whole game without getting unhooked unless you've completely stomped the killer. Getting the unhook, getting the 100% reduced sound is kind of handy, especially for killers who are very aware of it, and if they hit you, they will notice that you're making sound. So that's what I think the bonus part to this is. It adds that surprise element, because the killer's going to expect you to make noise. He's used to hearing you make noise because he knows that you don't have it. He knows you don't have Iron Will. If they've hit you once, and they're very alert to that, especially in higher ranks. So Off the Record is a bit of a sleeper perk when it comes to tricking killers, because they know for a fact you don't have Iron Will. Next time you hurt and you get unhooked and you're not making any noise, they think, hey, he must not be here, because usually he should be making noise if I've hit him. Breakdown: if you are removed from a hook, escape, or saved, the hook breaks and the killer's aura is shown to you for 6 seconds. A hook that is broken takes 3 minutes to respawn, guys. It's a big one. It's a very, very big one, especially if you combine this perk. Again, if you're going anti-hooks, you're going to be probably wanting to run a toolkit with this one. And a decent one at that with some decent charges, maybe increasing the speed of what you can break hooks at as well. This perk works really, really well. If you deliverance out of it, if you get someone to help you off, you break the hook, you can't be seen for 6 seconds as well, and on top of that, 3-minute cooldown on the hook, especially if it's in a very vital spot, maybe near a gen that's about to be done and the killer really wants to keep people hooked around there. Super, super powerful perk. This has a lot of potential to be swapped around though, guys. You can swap this out with Camaraderie. So Camaraderie is, while you're at the hook in the struggle phase, Camaraderie activates. If another survivor is within 16 meters of you while Camaraderie is activated, the hook timer is paused for 34 seconds. I know this perk is actually used a little bit in tournaments, because killers, if they know they really need to kill to get down, because we all know that a survivor team is strongest when it's at 4. That much is for certain. The moment a killer gets one of you down, the game just becomes exponentially harder from then on. One less person doing gens, one less person healing, one less person doing saves. It becomes harder and the workload is stretched even more. Camaraderie helps prevent killers who like to tunnel, lets your team do other things, and yeah, killers really don't suspect it sometimes. They sometimes they might sit around you and just wait for you to get put into that you know, to wait for you to get killed, and it really buys you that extra time for your team to get some cool saves. Maybe do a flashlight into, I don't know, some interesting play like that. That's a cool one. You can also swap this out with Saboteur, which I think is down here at the very end. The Saboteur is the ability to see hook auras from a certain distance, 56 meters, from the pickup spot if a survivor is being carried. So you kind of get an idea of where hooks are around the killer if you see someone being picked up. And also lets you, even without tool blocks, which is kind of cool, lets you break a hook, guys, once every 60 seconds as well. For 2.5 seconds it takes to cast it. You can either go for like an anti-hooking of yourself, or you can go for sort of a more team-based anti-hook where you're preventing other people from getting hooked with this build, which is kind of cool. And then the last one, which in my opinion is kind of really weak, it's Slippery Meat. Now, Slippery Meat is another variation that you can put onto this build, and that basically just gives you 3 extra escape attempts on the hook. Again, if you're running Deliverance, which I think is the better version of this, I don't think you need this perk. If you're maybe dodging, if you're maybe dropping Deliverance, maybe you can pick up Slippery Meat to give yourself 3 extra attempts, and then you can also add on like a luck offering to get off the hook maybe even better. And it also increases your hook attempt increased chance of success by 4%. So you can kind of play a little bit of a cheesy build here, go for maybe some lucky videos if you're trying to make some videos of on like getting unhooks and things like that, and do some cool things like that. But yeah, I would probably prefer Deliverance. All right, guys, that is the end to that video. I know it's a bit of a long one, but again, I wanted to make a pretty big list of general builds, and some that are a bit more unique as well. I hope you guys found some unique ones in there, some ones you haven't seen, some that you have. You probably would have seen a couple of those as well. But again, please guys, drop a like, drop a follow if you want as well, and it helps me out. It takes you half a second to do. Just scroll down, hit that big old red button, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, just stay tuned for what's to come out. Please drop your comments below of builds and perks and things you could even swap out. Things that I might have missed. Again, there are so many perks in this game. It took me like a couple days, like maybe a week plus to make this entire thing. So it took me some effort, but yeah, if it works out, and in the future there's big reworks to perks, when big chapters come out, when more and more abilities come out, I think I'll probably do some updated lists. Maybe if I see any other smaller builds come out, interesting ones, I might throw up smaller videos. But I just wanted to, like I said, I've seen smaller videos all over the place and small little lists everywhere, but I thought I'd make one big one for people just to get their hands on, to yeah, make it a little bit easy to sort of see the variety. I think when people make super small lists and they just give you cookie cutter stuff, it really puts people into the idea that you have to run super meta-y stuff to be playing good. You don't really have to. There are so many people I've seen playing with no perks or playing adept and just having fun and still being rank 1. If you get the idea, if you get the concept of how to be a good survivor, guys, it doesn't really matter what build you go. It really doesn't. They can enhance your gameplay, obviously. That's what they're there for. But if you get the basics down, yeah, you can really sort of shine with any build. And I think that's the cool thing about this game. There are obviously some really weak perks, but there are also some super strong ones. And I just want to encourage you guys to be able to try different ones and see how they work. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I do stream on Twitch at /Scuftmez, twitch.tv. So feel free to join. I do play a lot of DBD on there as well. So if you guys want to come hang out, maybe even try some of these builds on stream and see how it works, I'm completely happy to do so. Drop some feedback. I appreciate it a lot, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, yeah? Bye!